Good morning, USA. Welcome to the 25th episode of Bernie or Bust, the Bernie or Bust show. Fueled by coffee and a tiny little bit of cranberry trail mixes left. We got to go shopping today. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. We're almost to the month of August, which means that things are going to be heating up. I guarantee it. I predict, and I predicted some wild-ass things in 2015 that came true, absolutely. One of the things I predicted was that a populist would win in the general election. Some of my angry Democrat friends said that Donald Trump is no populist. But I said the people perceive him as a populist, and that's what matters. And the people perceive Bernie Sanders as a populist, and that's what matters. So unless we want to repeat history, unless we're doomed to repeat history, we're going to wake up and figure out that it's going to be, unless there's some new populist that we haven't seen that gets traction, Tulsi is the most likely to be perceived that way. She already is, but she hasn't gotten enough traction to really show up in the polls yet. So she's the dark horse in the race. But otherwise, there are only two populists. So, or at least people who are perceived that way. And so the dirty tricks that are coming, I predicted that the DNC would keep rigging it. And that was easy. Anyone could have predicted that. But I predicted what the general population would do about it. And I was right. And I'll be right next time. It's even more obvious when the rigging starts. The rigging last time was blatantly obvious because there were only two candidates. You had the one the DNC wanted, and you had the one they absolutely could not have no matter what. In truth, it's still sort of like that. You still have the one they absolutely can't have no matter what. But the other side of the coin is tricky. But my prediction is, you could probably tell already, if you look two different places, you'll see Elizabeth Warren's face. Here she's standing up and applauding Donald Trump for saying that we'll never have a socialistic United States. And here she's talking about, she's talking out of both sides of her mouth about campaign donations, and so we'll go into that. And another juicy tidbit we'll throw in for the 25th episode of the Bernie or Bust show is why Cenk Uygur is controlled opposition. He's probably the most brilliant mind in all of the minds that I've been really paying attention to over the last 5 years, and he is a sellout, just like Elizabeth Warren is a sellout. So let's get right to the nitty gritty. This guy, political vigilante, Graham, is great. Graham shows how Liz Warren just went against her pledge to not take any big donor money for the race. I forgot Graham's last name, but I'll make sure to let you know after you watch this little juicy tidbit.
Once we're elected, this is about how we build real change. So I'm excited about it.
So here's my question: You've been in politics for a little while. You've just recently reelected, and
That's
during
right,
that
one
time,
Senate term,
right? One Senate term, right? So, and during that time, you've done calls to wealthy donors. You've done big ticket fundraisers. You've put together a pretty good war chest. I think about $11 million that you had amassed. What does that say about what you were doing before? If this is the right way to do it now, why now and why not before?
So look,
Good
I've
question.
never actually been in a deeply competitive primary.
I've never had to run under the scrutiny of the public eye where I actually had to stand for something. I was just always running as a senator where I could just say two-faced, double-talky things, and only the people of Massachusetts would swallow my bullshit. But now I got to try to swallow it across all of America, and people are paying more attention now that I want to be president. So I got to come up with some new ways to sling bullshit.
I get it. Republicans come to the table armed to the teeth. They've got all of their donors, their wealthy donors. They've got their super PACs. They've got their dark money. They got everything going for them. And I'm just going to be blunt. I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We got to go into these fights, and we got to be willing to win these fights.
So this just applies to the primary. Like, were you to get the nomination, and or anyone else to get the nomination, like, just raise all the money you can, however you can.
Yes, but here's what I want you to see that's different about it, Chris. Think about the difference once we're down to the two candidates. If the Democrats have spent the next year in a primary building this thing face-to-face, person-to-person, neighbor-to-neighbor across the country, think of the kind of foundation that we have laid down so that when we're really up against it in the general election, it's not just money to fund television ads. It's all the folks who'll do the door knocking. It's all the folks who'll make the phone calls. It's all the folks who'll reach out to their network, because you know how we're going to win in 2020? It's going to be big. It's going to be people who voted for Donald Trump last time around. It's going to be people who haven't voted at all.
Oh, brother.
What are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? You started the interview saying, we got to get the money out of politics. And now you're saying we'll have this infrastructure to get volunteers to knock on doors, so it'll still be okay then to take big money out of politics, to get big money from politics? So you're in favor of, so you're just saying this in the primary to trick progressives, right, or not as informed, neoliberal, people who like, well, I liked Bernie, but I don't know, he was pie in the sky, or whatever, those sort of not full-blown neoliberals, but just not paying as much of attention neoliberalese, to think that you're progressive, and then you're not. And that's like, we got to just do whatever we can to beat Trump. So you're going to take billionaire donors, because if you take billionaire donors, guess what? You're beholden to them. So then any of these progressive policies that you say that you for, this is all she does is this fucking double talky bullshit. Like, green up the military. Oh man, yes. A green imperial army. That'll be so great. Rockets with, eco painted on the side. That's going to mean the world to the people in Yemen. They're just going to love that when Saudi Arabia bombs them with American weapons that have a leaf on them.
It's going to be people who see a vision and a way to make this democracy work, not just for the rich and the powerful, but make this democracy.
She just takes stuff Bernie Sanders said 3 years ago.
Right.
And God,
work for everyone.
Final question on this, and I want to ask a few other questions about some stuff that is happening in the campaign and proposal you put forward. But for this final question, I guess the question.
Let me fast forward it. Where should I go from here? Ah, yes.
That's Liz Warren standing and clapping. That's the State of the Union in February. There's Bernie Sanders sitting. There's Tim Kaine. Ha ha. I'm a sellout piece of shit. Look at them. All Democrats standing. Bernie Sanders is sitting. This is from the State of the Union in February. There it is. Jacobin reported it, February 10th, 2019. There she is standing. Disappointing, Elizabeth Warren stands up and applauds Trump's promise that America will never be a socialist country. That's who Liz Warren is. That's who Liz Warren is.
Now, Cenk, let's get to Cenk before we're done here. Cenk caught my imagination 4 or 5 years ago when he was talking about Wall Street, and he said, privatize the gains, socialize the losses. And wow, I thought about that, it sank in, and I realized that's exactly what Wall Street does. And that's what happened with the big bailout. And Cenk gets it. He understands everything that's happening. He understands the little healthcare. It's not little, but people are talking about healthcare, and it's confusing people because they don't know what to do with the insurance companies. Should we get the insurance companies completely out of the picture, like Bernie's saying, or should we give people a choice? And I can explain it in my words, but you have to see Cenk do it. But then at the end, I have to show you why you can't trust him. Here's Cenk.
It's terrible, they told us back then, and we can't have it. We must give in to the Republicans and Joe Lieber. Well, now they come and tell me that the public option is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, first of all, make up your mind. Second of all, it's obvious that progressives are correct when we keep pushing you further left, because that's where the public is. In a democracy, you might want to appeal to voters. I know it's a wild and crazy idea. Medicare for All polls at 70%. And what? Establishment Democrats say that's not popular enough? No, it's intensely popular with voters. It's not popular with their donors. Somebody's got to say it, for the love of God. It's the corruption, stupid. They're corrupt. That's why they don't want to do it. So in terms of the Medicare Extra, their number one problem right now, policy-wise, is if you set up that private insurance option, they'll take the healthiest Americans because they have a profit motive, and they'll drive down the prices for those healthiest Americans. But that's not how insurance works. That ruins the insurance pool, and then they unload all the costliest, sickest people onto Medicare, and then go, oh, can you believe how much it costs? It's a trick.
It's a trick. And Cenk's mind, he gets right to the middle of it. I haven't heard anybody else explain it like that. It's the same premise as privatize the gains and socialize the losses. They take the healthy people, the insurance companies will take the healthy people for themselves and then foist the rest of the pool onto the taxpayers. It's the same kind of trick. And his mind has no equal when it comes to figuring this stuff out. But Cenk is getting paid by some of the same people now, as his star has risen, as Elizabeth Warren is getting paid by, as other people are getting paid by. That was what I wanted you to see. The devil's deal here. Forgive me for a second. I've got to look at these notes that I put. Graham Elwood is his name. And there's a chunk of his video that starts right here that I want you to see.
Yeah, this was back in February. Oh, this just dropped today. Elizabeth Warren's campaign turned to a big donor to pay for the DNC voter database despite her fundraising pledge. What is the DNC voter database?
Yeah, this look at this again. Elizabeth Warren's campaign turned to a big donor, one big donor, to pay for the DNC voter database despite her fundraising pledge. So what she told the commentator earlier in this clip, you should really watch this whole 16-minute clip. What she told him is that she wasn't going to do that until the general election. But she's already doing that. She's already turning to big donors.
This is how the DNC runs their operation, if you're wondering how full of shit the Democratic Party is. The National Voter File is a pool of data about millions of people that presidential campaigns use as a foundation for their own private data as they identify and track support over time. It is managed by the DNC and costs campaigns $175,000. So you have to get this list, you have to pay $175,000. So she had a rich donor pay this. It's the equivalent, and her office says, well, no, we didn't take money from it. Well, she's not going against her word. Hey, we'd like this list. Hey, rich guy, would you mind paying it? Sure. Oh, he's not going to, 175 grand? 175 grand. Nah, that's not going to come with any strings attached. That's not going to come with any strings attached. She's great. She's the worst. She's such a double talker. It's unbelievable, but she says it all nice and folksy, and I'm from Oklahoma. It's just like, ugh. If you ever want to know what a female Joe Biden sounds like, there it is. As part of the agreement Warren signed with the DNC to access the voter file. So, of course, they're not going to it's 175 grand and an ounce of blood. And you got to sign a devil's deal. She is slated to appear at major party fundraiser in San Francisco next month.
Okay.
So she's going to be in August up in San Francisco. But I'm sure it's a fundraiser for like 5, 10 regular people. Like she said, I'm going to call anybody, not just the big donors. Yeah, you're going to call a $10 donor, I'm sure, like 5 of them. But I bet you these folks are going to get phone calls, right? According to a copy of the invitation, donors will be able to pay $10,000 that she paid for a private cocktail dinner reception. $50,000 ticket gets you premium seating and a photo opportunity. Boy, Liz, you're such a progressive. You're such a fake progressive. It's maddening. It's maddening to listen to them talk. You just heard what she said. And now, so she has a rich person pay $175,000 to get their donor file, and she has to do this agreement where she's going to go, these are rich donors. You couldn't last 5 months on your half-assed, I'm not going to take corporate money during the primary. You couldn't even last 5 months into there hasn't even been a vote yet. There's only been one debate, and you're already sold out.
That's about the size of it. And then you see Cenk, he understands when Elizabeth waffles on Medicare for All, when she's talking about the private option, Cenk has her dead to rights, but he doesn't nail her because later on in that segment with Cenk, he's still trying to make Elizabeth Warren and Bernie be equivalent. And they're nothing like the same thing. One is Bernie, one is the authentic, real McCoy, and Elizabeth is a stealthy imitation. She copies what Bernie says, but she's not. Her heart isn't there. Her heart is with the wealthy donors and with pleasing people. There are a lot of other things to say about Elizabeth, but these images and words boil it right down. So when Cenk understands about the mixture of health insurance companies with single payer, that's where Elizabeth is. And when he says it's wrong, he's right. But then he can't come right around in the same few minutes and say that Elizabeth Warren is a progressive. No more than you can say that he is a progressive after he tried to sheepdog us all into voting for Hillary Clinton last time. Trying to get us to vote for Elizabeth if they screw Bernie again is exactly the same trick. It's a dirty trick, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And so does Elizabeth Warren. She knows exactly what she's doing. So I hope that you also are aware, because this news isn't going to be in the mainstream. You're not going to get your news. Graham says the same thing. He says, you got to watch shows like this if you're going to figure out what's actually happening. So until next time, unscripted, unedited, unshaved, unbathed, and uncouth, as always, hope you have a great day.